You don't measure loyalty in words. You measure it in silence, in presence, in eyes that say everything when no one else knows what to say. The sirens came first, slicing through the calm dusk of Cedar Hills, Oregon. Red and blue lights flashed against the manicured lawns and porch columns of the Whitaker family's white colonial home. Then came the scream, one that made the neighbors stop breathing mid-sentence. Inside the upstairs bathroom, a German shepherd named Rex had his teeth locked, gently but with unrelenting force, on the hoodie collar of a boy slipping under bathwater. 14-year-old Caleb Whitaker's body hung limply, half submerged, his pale face tipped backward over the edge of the tub. One of Rex's paws was propped inside the basin for leverage, trembling as his body fought exhaustion. Caleb, his mother, Sarah, gasped as she appeared in the doorway, her hands going to her mouth. The scene looked like something from a nightmare, water overflowing onto the floor, crimson from where Rex had broken through the door, gashes across his front legs. But he wouldn't stop, not until help arrived. "Hold on, baby. Just hold on, Mark," she screamed. Her husband's feet thundered up the stairs, followed by the voice of their 10-year-old daughter, Ava, crying into the phone with a 911 dispatcher. And still, Rex did not let go. In that single moment, all the whispers from the neighborhood about the danger of big dogs meant nothing. Rex, the 90-pound rescue they'd adopted 9 months ago, was the only one keeping their son's head from sinking beneath the water. His tail wasn't wagging. His ears were flat. But his eyes never left Caleb's. Welcome to the HeartForce channel, where you and I find more meaning in life through dog stories. Before we continue, please comment below and let us know where you're listening to this video. And if you have any dog stories of your own, feel free to share them with everyone. 9 months earlier, the Whitakers didn't even want a dog. After a decade of health scares, Sarah and Mark Whitaker had built a world of control and predictability. Their son Caleb had been diagnosed with a rare congenital condition affecting his heart muscle. There were limits on everything. No intense exercise, no roughhousing, a restricted diet, even carefully controlled temperatures. They lived like their home was made of glass. When the family therapist first floated the idea of a pet to help Caleb socialize and feel less isolated, Mark laughed outright. "We don't have time for a goldfish," he said. "And certainly not a German shepherd. Too big, too risky, too unpredictable." He had childhood memories of one lunging at him through a fence. He never forgot the sound of the snarl. But Caleb didn't say much anymore, except that day when he looked up with wide, pleading eyes. "Just let me meet one." The compromise came on a cold, gray Saturday morning when Sarah offered to drive blankets and towels to the West Haven Animal Rescue. "In and out," she'd said. "We'll be home before lunch." But they weren't, because in kennel number 7, a pair of amber eyes changed everything. Rex didn't bark or whine when they approached. He simply stood, regal and still, tail sweeping slowly, watching Caleb like he'd been waiting for him his whole life. The boy stood frozen, then whispered, "Can I meet him?" The shelter volunteer hesitated. "He's a shepherd mix," she said carefully. "And he has a past." That past came with a file 2 inches thick, abandonment, suspected neglect, and behavioral notes no one liked to see. He was taken from a foreclosed property after neighbors heard howling for days. He'd broken through a window to escape. Shards of glass were still lodged in his right paw when he arrived. But he never showed aggression. Not once. In the meet-and-greet room, Rex approached Caleb with cautious grace. "No humping, no barking." He sat, waited, then slowly placed his chin on Caleb's knee. "He knows," Caleb whispered, running his fingers through the dog's thick fur. "He gets what it's like, feeling alone, but still, hoping someone sees you." Sarah blinked away tears. She'd never seen her son like this, so still, so connected. Mark hovered by the door. "He's massive," he muttered. He could knock Caleb over with a sneeze. But Rex didn't move. His gaze never left Caleb. And for the first time in years, the boy smiled. They brought Rex home under a foster-to-adopt agreement. Mark insisted it remain temporary. The whispers started immediately. "Those dogs are unpredictable. A German shepherd? With a heart kid?" The neighbor across the street, Mrs. Bradley, stopped inviting Ava to her granddaughter's birthday parties. Sarah's phone lit up with passive-aggressive messages about concerns. Even the pediatrician hesitated. "Just be cautious," she warned. "You never know how animals might react." But Rex wasn't just cautious, he was vigilant. Within days, he knew Caleb's routine. He'd sit quietly by the boy's side during remote classes, shadow him during walks, sleep beside his bed every night. When Caleb's heart monitor beeped, Rex would race to find Sarah before the humans even realized what was wrong. The change in Caleb was undeniable. He smiled more, laughed even. He started writing again, short stories about adventures in the mountains, ones he could never physically take. But that didn't matter. With Rex, the world felt less impossible. Then came that night, a quiet Wednesday. Caleb said he was going to take a bath. Sarah remembered how calm everything seemed, until it wasn't. They would later learn he had suffered a sudden arrhythmia, lost consciousness, slipped under the water. And Rex, sleeping outside the bathroom, knew the moment it happened, he began to bark. A deep, raw, unfamiliar sound that pulled Sarah from the back patio like a lifeline. He threw his body into the door again and again, claws digging, eyes wild. Not from panic, but from urgency. The frame cracked. He forced the door open just as Caleb disappeared beneath the surface. Caleb survived, barely, because a dangerous German shepherd had refused to let him drown. The EMTs would say they'd never seen anything like it. One called it divine intervention. Another simply knelt and patted Rex on the head. But the family knew the truth. It wasn't luck. It was love. Rex refused to leave Caleb's side in the hospital. Though the facility didn't allow dogs past the waiting area, exceptions were made when a heart specialist reviewed the home security footage, watched the shepherd burst through the bathroom door, pull Caleb above water, and wait like a soldier beside his body as Mark performed CPR. This wasn't a reaction, the doctor said. It was a decision. They placed Rex at the foot of Caleb's bed with a small blanket and strict orders. No jumping, no barking, no sudden movements. But Rex didn't need the rules. He simply curled beside the boy and stayed, alert, calm, breathing in sync with him. Machines hummed. Fluorescent lights buzzed. Nurses came and went. Rex didn't move. Not until Caleb opened his eyes. Mark, once so resistant, found himself standing in the hospital corridor with wet eyes and a hand resting on Rex's head. "I was wrong," he whispered. Sarah nodded. "About what?" "About dogs. About this one. About everything." News of the rescue spread quickly through Cedar Hills. What started as a quiet local story, a boy, his dog, a miraculous survival, soon caught fire. A reporter from the Oregonian requested an interview. A television crew showed up on their lawn. People began leaving cards, treats, letters, a framed print with the words, "Every hero doesn't wear a badge. Some wear fur." But with admiration came backlash. "You're glorifying a shepherd," one email read. "What happens when it bites next time?" Someone else dropped off a newspaper clipping about a past shepherd attack, highlighting the breed in yellow marker. A week later, the HOA president sent a formal letter requesting Rex wear a muzzle in public for community comfort. Comfort. It was the same word Sarah had heard when Caleb was denied a chance to play dodgeball in middle school. "We just want all the kids to feel comfortable," the principal had said. Translation: "Your son makes us nervous." Now, they were saying the same about Rex. Caleb was discharged under close observation. The cardiologist ordered more frequent monitoring, a stricter medication schedule, and emotional calm, less stress, more sleep. Rex, as usual, knew the drill. He followed Caleb like a silent tether, anticipating his movements before he made them. When Caleb's breath shortened, Rex nudged the emergency kit towards Sarah. When the boy dropped a book mid-sentence and stared off into space, Rex would rest his head on his lap, anchoring him back. Sarah started calling Rex the second heartbeat. But peace didn't last. At the next community HOA meeting, they brought it to a vote. Rex was officially listed as a potential threat. A clause in the bylaws cited property safety, breed behavior, and uncontrolled entry due to the bathroom door incident. They're saying breaking down a door to save our son shows violent tendencies? Mark asked, jaw clenched. They're scared, Sarah replied, but of the wrong thing. The neighborhood's concern wasn't new. It had just shifted form. Caleb had always been the heart kid, the one everyone was careful around. Now he was the boy with the German Shepherd, the kid with the scary dog. Then came the incident at the park. It was a warm Saturday morning, and Mark had driven the family to Riverbend Park for a rare outing. Caleb walked slowly beside Rex along the lake's edge, while Sarah and Ava unpacked sandwiches under a shaded pavilion. Across the park, a boy screamed. People turned. A child, maybe 6, came running across the grass, tears pouring down his cheeks. Behind him, Rex. But he wasn't chasing. He was trotting behind, head low, ears back, nudging a baseball toward the boy who had accidentally thrown it too far. The child had fallen and scraped his knee. Rex had simply retrieved the ball and tried to return it. But no one saw that part. A woman, presumably the child's mother, snatched the boy into her arms and screamed, "Get that thing away from us." She pointed to Rex as if he were a bomb. Caleb froze. Mark called Rex back immediately, and the dog obeyed without hesitation. But someone had already pulled out a phone. The video went up within hours. German Shepherd lunges at child at Riverbend Park. No context, no audio, just a shepherd in motion and a child crying. The next morning, the sheriff came by the house. "We have to follow up," he said apologetically. "We know your dog's history, but the footage, we have to look into it." Ava began to cry. Caleb didn't. He walked over to Rex, placed a hand on his neck, and stared the sheriff straight in the eye. "You can watch our security cam." Rex wasn't off leash. He wasn't lunging. He was helping. The officer looked at the boy, small for his age. A portable heart monitor still clipped under his t-shirt, and nodded. "I believe you." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat in the kitchen, nursing cold tea, watching Rex lying on the rug near the fridge. He opened one eye to check on her, then closed it again. "He'd die for Caleb," she whispered to Mark. Mark nodded. "It already almost did." Sarah blinked, eyes shimmering. "So why are they so afraid of him?" Mark took her hand. "Because when someone's been fed fear their whole life, truth starts to look threatening." The next day, Ava stayed home from a birthday party. The mom had emailed saying they were keeping things small and shepherd-free. Caleb skipped a school event. His teacher said she couldn't guarantee that other parents would feel safe. It broke Sarah in half. She went to the garage, found a box labeled Piano Recital 2015, and pulled out the laminated medical alert badge Caleb wore when he was 7, the one that told the world he was fragile. A warning label, not a lifeline. She walked into the living room, sat next to Rex, and held the tag up to his collar. "You're not a threat," she whispered. "You're the strongest heart in this house." Rex licked her hand. The threats began as whispers, then turned into stones. A week after the park incident, someone left a typed letter in the Whitakers' mailbox. No return address, no signature, just 4 words in bold. "Something will happen next." Sarah held the note with gloved hands, heart pounding. "This is a threat." Mark took a photo before calling the sheriff. But there wasn't much they could do. "Could be a prank," the deputy offered. "Still, we'll log it." That night, Sarah installed 2 more security cameras. Caleb didn't say a word, but he slept with his door open and Rex curled tight beside him, one hand resting on the dog's thick coat like a life preserver. The local newspaper finally ran a full profile. The shepherd hero or a danger waiting to strike. They listed the breed statistics, cherry-picked quotes, and vague mentions of neighborhood concern. There was no mention of Rex saving Caleb from drowning. No security footage. No expert input. Just the fear. It was Ava who noticed the pattern first. "All the people mad at Rex," she said one evening, fiddling with her macaroni, "are the same ones who never looked Caleb in the eye at block parties." Mark looked up. "What do you mean?" "They were always scared of him, too. Not because he did anything, but because they didn't know what to do with him." Sarah swallowed hard. "And now they don't know what to do with Rex." One person did, though. Mrs. Granger. The elderly widow 3 houses down, known for her prize-winning begonias and 3 cats, was the least likely ally. But one Tuesday morning, She appeared at the Whitakers' doorstep with a tray of warm blueberry muffins. "I just want to say thank you," she told Sarah. "That dog of yours? He stayed by Caleb's side at the hospital longer than most people would." Sarah blinked back surprise. "Thank you, Mrs. Granger. I saw the video," she said, eyes sharper than Sarah had ever noticed. "The one from the park. I saw what really happened. And I told Karen Green to her face that she should be ashamed." Sarah almost laughed. "What did she say?" "She stopped inviting me to her book club." Mrs. Granger smiled. "So I started my own." The whispers didn't stop. That weekend, someone slashed the tires of the family's SUV while it was parked at the community center. Caleb had been inside with Sarah for a heart check-in workshop. The police were called. Reports were filed. But nothing came of it. Mark replaced the tires himself that night, refusing help, his hands dirty with oil and rage. "They'll never say it," he muttered, "but they're hoping we'll move." Caleb sat quietly on the porch with Rex at his feet. "We're not going," the boy said. Rex didn't run. "I'm not going either." Mark looked up at his son, thinner, paler, but taller than he remembered, a quiet fire in his eyes. "No," Mark said. "We're staying." The next school board meeting was tense. Since the hospital incident, Rex had been allowed on campus as Caleb's registered support animal. But a petition had begun circulating, mostly from anonymous parents, urging the board to reconsider. Children shouldn't have to feel unsafe to accommodate one student's needs. The phrasing was careful, legal, devoid of emotion. Caleb sat at the back of the meeting, Rex at his feet, flanked by Sarah and Mark. Ava stayed home, too nervous to attend. A tall man stood to speak. Brad Langston, PTA co-chair, former college linebacker, widely respected in the neighborhood. "My daughter had a panic attack during PE," he said. "She told me it was because that dog was nearby." The audience murmured. The board took notes. Then Sarah stood. Her voice didn't tremble. "My son nearly died in our bathroom while I was sipping tea on the patio. I didn't hear a thing. Rex did. He broke through a locked door and pulled Caleb out of the water. He kept him alive until paramedics arrived." She looked at the board, then the crowd. "He's not dangerous. He's a lifeline. You may not understand that because you haven't had to fight every day for your child's next breath. But I have. So if you're asking us to choose between my son's ability to attend school safely and your daughter's unfounded fear of a dog she's never even approached." She paused. Her breath was steady. "Then we'll find another school. But you'll have to explain that to your students, that a community punished a boy for being saved." Silence. Then someone clapped. Just one. Mrs. Granger. They didn't ban Rex. Instead, the school board proposed new support animal regulations, ones that included behavioral assessments and independent therapy dog evaluations. Rex passed every one. The therapist who evaluated him wrote, "Rex demonstrates an unusually high level of medical intuition, calm responsiveness to stress, and social intelligence. His bond with the patient appears therapeutic in nature and is not replicable with other animals." The board didn't just permit him to stay. They asked Sarah to help draft broader support animal policy. Mark nearly dropped his coffee when he read the email. But progress was slow, bittersweet. Emily, Caleb's former best friend before his diagnosis, started saying hello again in the hallway. But her mom still wouldn't let her come over after school. Caleb's heart rate improved, but his trust in people did not. And Rex, though still his shadow, began to slow. The vet had warned them. The shoulder injury from breaking through the door had healed physically, but scar tissue would remain. Especially on cold mornings, Rex walked with a slight limp. But he never faltered beside Caleb. They walked in rhythm, quiet, measured steps. Not fast, but forward. That December, something changed. The HOA leadership shifted. Mrs. Granger, backed by a quiet army of parents and grandparents, was elected president. Karen Green lost by 12 votes. 2 weeks later, the muzzle mandate was repealed. Rex walked the neighborhood without it. People nodded. Some even smiled. Caleb noticed the change, but said nothing. Instead, he knelt beside Rex at the end of the block and whispered, "You're changing them." Rex wagged his tail once. The first snowfall came early that year. Caleb had always loved the quiet of it, how the world softened, how the air held its breath. But that December, he noticed something else. Rex didn't run through it like he used to. Instead, he moved slowly across the yard, careful with his right shoulder. His breath puffed in the air like steam from a train that had been running too long. "Is it hurting again?" Caleb whispered, kneeling beside him. Rex leaned in and nuzzled his chest. The vet confirmed it. Scar tissue had tightened with the cold. While Rex was still strong, he'd need shorter walks, warmer bedding, and joint supplements. The pain wasn't constant, but it was there, always just under the surface. Caleb took it hard. "He saved my life, and now he's paying for it," he told Sarah later that night. Curled under a blanket with Rex pressed to his side. "Rex would make the same choice 1,000 times," she said gently. "That's what love looks like when it costs you something." That winter, the Whitaker home changed. It became a kind of safe haven, not just for Caleb and Rex, but for others. Mrs. Granger dropped by with casseroles and stories. A family with a rescue lab mix started attending board meetings and pushing for breed-neutral language in community policies. Even Emily visited once, sitting cross-legged on the floor while Rex dozed between them. "He really doesn't care that I stopped talking to you," she said, scratching his ears. Caleb smiled faintly. "He cares that you came back." But not everyone was happy with the changes. Karen Green, ousted from her HOA throne, started stirring up new fears. One evening, Sarah opened the community Facebook group to find a long post from Karen's alt account. "Are we really going to ignore that a German Shepherd broke through a door? Imagine if that had been a child. We're being manipulated by a PR campaign built on guilt and sentimentality. The next victim might not survive." The comments exploded. Most were supportive, sharing links about therapy dogs, videos of Rex walking gently beside Caleb. But others weren't. They weaponized the kid's condition. "It's just a matter of time." Mark wanted to reply. Sarah didn't let him. "We don't fight in the mud," she said. "We let Rex's actions speak for themselves." The new storm came unexpectedly. One Sunday afternoon, Caleb and Rex were walking by the creek trail when they heard it. A scream. Not child's. A woman's. They ran toward it. Caleb's heart monitor beeped softly with every step. By the water's edge, a jogger had fallen on the ice. Her ankle twisted awkwardly. She was sobbing, trying to crawl up the hill. Rex didn't wait for instruction. He padded down the slope slowly, approached from the side, and sat beside her. The woman flinched. "Please don't bite." Rex lay down, completely, head on his paws, tail gently thumping. The woman stared at him, then reached out. He licked her hand once. By the time Caleb reached them, the woman was no longer crying. "Your dog, he's amazing." Caleb smiled. "I know." The next morning, a letter arrived. Typed, signed, from the jogger, Melissa Rowan. "Paramedic. Your dog kept me calm. My ankle was broken, but the real danger was the panic. I've seen patients go into shock from less. If he hadn't been there, well, I don't want to finish that sentence. I'm writing to the HOA and the school. That dog isn't just a support animal. He's an angel." The letter made its way to a local councilwoman. Within a month, new legislation began circulating through City Hall. The Companion Protection Clause, which aimed to provide expanded rights and legal protection to certified support animals, regardless of breed. Karen Green showed up at the council meeting, arguing again about Rex. "He's dangerous. I don't care what he hasn't done yet. We shouldn't need a body before we take action." Then Melissa Rowan stood, paramedic uniform, limping slightly, holding up a photo of Rex beside her on the ice. "This dog saved my life. Not once, twice. The first time I was a stranger. The second, I was a neighbor." The clause passed with overwhelming support. Rex's photo now hung in the City Hall's community wall under the caption, "Service without uniform. Hero without words." But for Caleb, the most powerful moment came quietly. At school, Brad Langston, once the loudest opponent, now subdued, approached him in the hallway. Rex stood beside Caleb, still and quiet. I used to be scared of dogs," Brad muttered. "Still am, kinda, but not yours. Yours is different." Caleb tilted his head. "Why?" Brad shrugged. "Because he looks at you like you matter." Caleb nodded. "He looks at everyone that way." Then came the blizzard. A record snowfall, icy winds, roads closed, power flickering. Caleb had been doing well, his heart rate stable, appetite better, even walking longer distances with Rex. But the storm hit something in his body like a switch. His color faded, his breathing thinned. The monitor beeped with a rhythm Sarah had hoped to never hear again. She rushed to his side, dialing 911 with one hand, checking his oxygen with the other. Mark began clearing the driveway in case the ambulance could get through. And Rex stayed at Caleb's side, pressing his chest gently into the boy's torso, offering body heat. Comfort. Time. Because time was what they needed. Paramedics arrived 18 minutes later. They found Rex with his head resting over Caleb's chest like a shield. Again, and they understood. In a hospital, as monitors beeped and doctors murmured, the attending nurse asked, "Has this dog always been like this?" Mark replied without thinking, "He's always been what we needed. We just didn't always know it." Caleb stabilized after 3 days. Doctors adjusted his medication, told him he'd pushed too hard, too fast. But Rex? He didn't leave the hospital room once. Not even to eat. Sarah had to hand feed him sandwiches and water from a cup. "I think he's starting to become part of Caleb," the nurse joked. Sarah smiled softly. "He already is." Spring arrived in Cedar Hills with a hush, not a fanfare. After the storm, the community quieted. The comments stopped. The whispers faded. And the Whitakers, they kept walking. Each day, Caleb and Rex took the same route. Up Oak Ridge Lane, past the cul-de-sac where the arguments used to happen, past the mailboxes where hate notes had once appeared. Now people waved. Some smiled. A few kids even crossed the street just to pet Rex. "Do you remember," Caleb asked one morning, "when people were afraid of you?" Rex didn't respond, of course. He simply leaned his weight into Caleb's legs. His way of saying, "I remember, but I don't carry it." It was during that spring that Caleb was invited to speak at the high school's Mental Health and Wellness Day. He was nervous. He'd never addressed a crowd. His palms sweated. His heart monitor clicked in faint rhythms under his shirt. But when it was time, he stepped up to the podium with Rex by his side. He looked over the crowd of teenagers, teachers, some parents, and said, "People used to think I was fragile. Then they thought Rex was dangerous. But none of those things were true. We were just misunderstood." He placed a hand on Rex's back. "This dog didn't just save my life. He gave me a reason to live it." There was silence. The good kind. The kind that holds meaning. Then applause. And maybe even a few tears. Later that week, Sarah found Caleb in the backyard, resting on the grass with Rex lying beside him. He was scribbling in a small notebook, his writing journal. "What are you working on?" she asked. "A book," he replied. "What kind?" He looked down at Rex. "A story about a boy whose heart was broken, and the dog who kept it beating." Rex turned 9 that summer. His movements were slower, but his spirit was unchanged. The vet said he was aging well. Healthy joints, clear eyes, heart strong. Unusual for a rescue with his history, she said. But Rex wasn't just a rescue. He was a guardian. He was family. On Rex's 9th adoption anniversary, the Whitakers hosted a backyard gathering. Not a party, exactly, just food, neighbors, stories. The kind of thing they never would have dared before. Mrs. Granger baked her famous rhubarb pie. Melissa brought bones from her new homemade dog treat business, inspired by Rex. Even Brad came, now in college, studying social work. Ava made a short speech. "Rex is more than a dog," she said. "He's the heart of this pack." Caleb smiled at that, because it was true. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Mark built a fire pit in the backyard. Sarah passed out mugs of hot cocoa, and everyone took turns sharing what Rex had taught them. Mrs. Granger said, "That age doesn't dull wisdom. It sharpens it." Melissa said, "That strength can come in silence." Brad said, "That redemption is possible, even for people." Mark, once the most fearful of them all, simply said, "That love changes everything." Finally, it was Caleb's turn. He stood beside Rex, now lying on a soft blanket near the fire, head on his paws, tail sweeping gently through the grass. "I used to think I was a problem to be managed," he said, "that I had to be watched, protected, wrapped in bubble wrap." He knelt beside Rex. "But Rex, he didn't protect me from life. He helped me live it." He looked up at the crowd, his voice steady, clear. I don't think he saved me in that bathtub just because he could. I think he saved me because he knew I wasn't done yet. He looked at Rex, whispered, "Thank you for staying until I figured that out." The applause was quiet. No fanfare, just warmth. The kind that lingers long after the last ember fades. Rex passed away 2 years later, peacefully, in his sleep. He was 13. Caleb found him in the morning, curled in his usual place at the foot of the bed. No fear, just peace, just love. They buried him in the backyard under the old cedar tree where he used to nap in the summers. Ava painted a wooden plaque. Rex, the heart that watched over ours. But that wasn't the end, because a year after that, Caleb started a nonprofit, the Rex Foundation, matching support dogs with chronically ill teens. Sarah ran the community outreach. Ava designed the logo. Mark built training stations at the shelter. They called it Joy with Teeth. And Caleb? He wrote, and he walked, and he healed. Because love like Rex's doesn't disappear. It multiplies. In every life, there are moments that divide us into before and after. For the Whitakers, that moment was a knock at the bathroom door, followed by a dog who chose love over fear. Rex wasn't just a pet. He was a healer, a protector, a silent reminder that strength doesn't need to roar. That sometimes the greatest guardians walk on 4 legs. His loyalty reshaped a family, a neighborhood, and a boy's future. Not through grand speeches, but through presence, through heart. Has a dog ever changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the HeartForce channel. Every like, comment, and share helps us bring more stories like Rex's to the world.